Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Smutty Book Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, the talent.
And this is why I don't do specials. Okay, on this special, surprise, it's me, bitch. It's Brittany, bitch. I know, it's weird because it's February and, spoiler alert, you're going to see a lot of Crystal this month.
Yeah, apparently.
But today, for our first BDSM-themed February special of the month, we read Seven by Katie Robichaux, which is a Club Alias novel. Seth Owens, co-owner of Club Alias, has always taken full advantage of the endless supply of willing submissives who frequent his high-end establishment, but he's never trusted anyone enough to let them get to know the man beneath the leather mask. Twyla Quill has always been the good girl, the responsible one, which has left her with no time to indulge in the many pleasures of life, much less a relationship. When Twyla finally convinces her sister to leave her abusive boyfriend, they have no choice but to move across the country and hide out, away from the monster determined to get her sister back. With her savings quickly running out, Twyla takes a position at the local sex shop, where she meets Seth, a man who is all too willing to show her what she's been missing out on. What happens when the witty Dom meets the sweet new girl in town? Sparks fly, and a whirlwind romance neither ever saw coming begins. But will Seth be able to protect the woman he considered his? Find out in about a minute and a half. Just kidding.
Girl.
Hello. How are
Hello.
you? What an
Well,
entrance.
welcome to Ariel's pretty much first special. Well, kinda.
No. But of 2026? No, that's not true either. Of February 2026? My first episode of February
Yeah, because it's been
2026.
me,
Yeah.
which I'm annoyed about. But here we are.
So, yes, this month we decided to have a BDSM theme, and our goal was to dive into the BDSM world and get into that vibe. This book was recommended to us, so let's dive in. Right off the bat, we start with a prologue, and it is titled with an image of a ball gag. So, in my brain, I was like, buckle up. Solid nuggets. I was ready to ride the rodeo of all the fun things that a BDSM club has in store.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment of silence for my sadness. Sorry. We start with Twyla, and she's picking up her sister Astrid from a really shitty situation and getting her the fuck out of an abusive home with a man named Brandon. And they take off and put 2,673 miles between them and Astrid's now ex. Then we fast forward 2 months later. Twyla has been trying to get a job for over 7 weeks. She's now had 17 interviews. It has not been going well. She has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and everyone is finding her more than overqualified for every position she applies for.
I hate that, by the way. I understand that
Yes and
that
no.
is a
If you're
thing.
applying for that position and you're willing to take that, I mean, I understand where they're coming because they're like, oh, well, maybe they won't last long, but they
So
have to
it's
know what they're
actually,
getting into.
well, yes, but it actually is a huge issue where there are people being passed up on jobs because they're overqualified and they would rather pay someone way less that is not nearly as qualified than try to pay that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really stupid. It is very fucking common. And I'm going to tell you, I applied for about 150 jobs when I first moved to Florida and I got one
It's crazy.
by chance. So yeah, the job market's garbage. So, I feel her.
Everything here is kind of garbage. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
I was just trying to ignore it for a second, but yes.
I was hoping 2026 will be better. Well, maybe the Chinese New Year will be better. because maybe we are all in China time because that would make more sense. And we need to wait for the Chinese
Have
New
you
Year.
not been on the side of TikTok that says you're Chinese?
Oh, I am. Yeah.
Okay, me too.
Mm.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
they had just taken a map and randomly pointed their finger, and that's where they ended up, which honestly, vibes. I don't know if I could totally do it and commit to it, but in my head, sounds like a great idea. Did I like living anywhere other than where I've lived most of my life? No. But creature of habit. Both her and her sister are attempting to start over, but they're a long way from California and a long way from anywhere that needs a chemical engineer. And now, during the 17th interview, when the woman asks why she's even applying, being so overqualified, everything just all tumbles out of Twyla. And the woman tells her that the job only pays $10 an hour plus commission, and it has crap hours. Is she sure she wants it? Like, it's hers if she does. But is she sure? Twyla is relieved because her savings are almost completely gone and she needs something, anything. And she didn't realize when they picked a random spot that they would find themselves in a teeny tiny town outside a military base with literally nothing but a few types of stores. It has a tattoo shop, a couple of restaurants, a movie theater, and a sex shop. This sex shop where Twyla is now being offered a job. It was her literal last hope. So she takes it and rushes home to tell Astrid that she's the newest sales associate for Toys for Twats.
Which is really funny. Not gonna
That's the
lie.
best part of this book.
Toys for Twats.
Toys for Twats.
I love that for. I would love that.
I I love Toys for Twats. So we all,
I mean, they're really fun. It's great. It's so good.
I think that would be like dream if we ever were able to get to a position where we could be sponsored by any kind of toy for twat.
I legitimately would love to be sponsored by any of those
Mm.
because
It would be so much fun, and we
first
would
of
be
all, it'd
so
be
like
so on
we'd
brand.
definitely be qualified.
We're very qualified. I feel like we are very uniquely
I had
qualified.
multiple toy chests, just saying. I am a woman who's lived alone for well over a decade. I have multiple toy chests. Just saying.
Yeah. We No, I'm not going to put that out in the universe. Never mind. I'm going to shut up.
Oh, I want to know now.
We have matching toys, Aria.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I
And if we ever got sponsored, we could have more matching toys
So, just saying.
for funsies.
Maybe 2026 will be our year to manifest it.
Manifest it.
I love that that's what we're manifesting.
Toys for twats, baby. Anywho, Astrid, not happy about the Toys for Twats. She does not feel like Crystal and she's not fitting this vibe. She's very upset. Twyla was a rising star at a multi-million-dollar company that made cleaning solutions, and now she's a sales associate at a sex shop.
Honestly, it sounded like you were just going to say a sales twat.
And now she's a sales twat. She feels like she's ruined Twyla's life. Twyla insists that Astrid is her life. And they're both out here doing what they can to make it all work. Astrid is the only one who's been able to bring in any money during all this time. She does online makeup sales. And plus, they've needed to keep her hidden. Astrid still feels horrible. But then the mood is lightened because she says that she is able to do a decent job selling makeup because she knows a lot about it and she's good at consultation for makeup. But how is Twyla going to convince people to buy sex toys when she's a virgin? And the second Crystal read this one, there was the biggest eye roll. So Seth is one of the owners at Club Alias, the BDSM club nearby. And he likes to shop locally and support one of their members' businesses by buying some of the supplies they need from the local sex store instead of buying everything online. Plus, the woman gives them a good discount. What he's surprised to find is their new employee. who looks like a mousy librarian, a very adorable mousy librarian. He hands her his list of things that he needs and patiently watches as she fumbles through the entire thing. He lets her bring him to the butt plug section instead of the dildos, and when she says they must be out of nipple clamps, he just allows her to say that as he looks over at the wall of them and even tries to get her going when she finally can find the lube section, asking her all kinds of questions about specific kinds. But finally, they're interrupted by the owner, Roxanne, who's wondering why Seth has barely anything in his shopping basket. Twyla can't help but mutter a joke, which Roxanne catches and is grateful because she thought that Twyla was a big fat dud and would not survive this store. And Twyla says that one would think that professionalism is key when trying to sell someone a dildo, pointing to the butt plug in Seth's basket. And Roxanne is like, fudge, they have some training to do. And Seth stage whispers that it's a butt plug and then points to the giant wall of dildos. And Twyla realizes that she's been played. She pleads to Roxanne that she's a fast learner and that she'll get it. And Roxanne says it's fine. Don't worry. Plus, Seth being her first customer is actually very lucky. And she asks if Seth still does training sessions at the club and maybe Twyla could attend so she could learn some of the ropes and it could help her at the store. He tries to say that the training sessions are for club members only, but Roxanne just waves it away like, sure, official trainings maybe, but he could offer private lessons after club hours, just so that Twyla knows what she's talking about. Seth says fine if Twyla's game for it, and he won't bite yet. Twyla says she'll do it. She wasn't really thinking with her upper brain at the time. She was just watching a hot guy ask her to do something, and she couldn't resist just saying yes to whatever he asked. Yeah, this is where I was just like, okay. She doesn't know what any of it means. She doesn't know what the club he's talking about. She doesn't know what training is. But if he wants her to be a student, looking at her with those eyes, he can be her teacher. And her boss is saying it's a good idea. Seth asks for her email address so he can send her times that he's available. And then he lifts her hand and kisses her knuckles and then heads to grab the supplies that he actually needs. When Twyla gets home and tells Astrid about her day and how humiliating it was to have the most gorgeous man alive come in and have a 24-year-old woman give him the wrong items and then find out he owns some kind of club and is a master at things, and now her boss wants her to take lessons from him. But she's really not sure what sex toys and a dance club have to do with it, why he would be the one teaching her anything, but whatever. And Astrid finds this all very, very comical and says, so she's going to be taking lessons from a dom at a BDSM club. Twyla's like, no, his name's not Dom, it's Seth. Astrid is like, oh boy, and explains.
And then Ariel was like, oh boy.
Yeah. Twyla doesn't fully grasp still what Astrid is trying to explain to her, but Astrid says that she has 2 days before her next shift and grabs her Kindle and hands it to Twyla, saying that she needs to learn about Christian Grey. That's her homework. And that's when I knew. Okay. That's when I knew that this wasn't going to be the book I wanted it to be. Yeah, so Twyla takes the Kindle, goes to get changed and take a bath before dinner, checks her email, finds one waiting from Seth, asking if they can meet the next morning because Roxanne said she had the day off, and sends the address to meet, and she replies back saying she can. She decides to listen to Astrid and read some of the Kindle while she's in the bath. And then it's 5 hours later.
I mean,
I understand. But, but.
but.
So, over a decade ago, when this was all really popular,
Hmm.
I was not of, of course, we read these because we needed to know what they were talking about.
Hmm.
But I was very much not of the, oh, this is great stuff. I was very much, I had already hit this scene in like my own reading, and the the Christian Grey side of it was trash, and it was not what I wanted. And I had already deep dove into better and what actually qualified for me as decent BDSM books.
And I hadn't yet. So
Right.
I
And
actually
that's
enjoyed these.
totally different
But
perspective, and that's fine.
then we moved over to the Sylvia Day series, and then I
Hmm.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
JK.
Yeah. I loved me some Sylvia Day back then. I was also a big Masters of the Shadowlands.
That
Loved
Ariel thought I
those.
have already read, but I haven't.
I swore I would have made you read them back then, but
No.
I'm
Sometimes you
actually
think I've read
regretting.
things I haven't read, so.
I'm actually regretting not doing it now. They're not on Kindle Unlimited though, so bummer. That's why I didn't pick them for this month.
Mm.
Because those are always ones I think of when I'm like, oh, quick little, but
Yeah.
go figure. Anywho, Twyla's starting to get worried, realizing what she might have gotten herself into. So Seth, along with Corbin, Doc, and Brian, own Club Alias. They're also part of Imperium Security, which is a bodyguard cover-up for their real jobs as mercenaries. For a very large fee, they take out bad guys. But they have stipulations that must be met, like they must be criminals or they must be like really shitty humans, etc. We didn't really dive deep enough for this, in my opinion, but
It's a
whatever.
200-page book.
Also that. Seth checks in with them to make sure that they're all fine with him giving Twyla private lessons outside of club hours where she's not a member. They say it's good, but they want to make sure that he keeps the security cameras recording to protect himself because they don't really know her and he'll be alone with her, and to also make sure she signs a consent form. Doc brings up a good point that there's a reason they make sure all potential members go through 4 therapy sessions before they're allowed in the club. Seth might want to be extra careful about what he's teaching this woman and figuring out her background and all that jazz. Maybe a more hands-off approach, especially at first, would be best. Twyla shows up the next morning at the club on time, and Seth greets her and explains that he's giving her the same contract as he gives all other members for her to sign, and explains that they have cameras everywhere and all the ins and outs of everything. She starts to go through the contract and chuckles at the limit section and confesses that she had read 50 Shades, and he's surprised that she hasn't read anything like that before. Like, what kind of rock did she crawl out of? And she explains that she hasn't done much except school and work. She doesn't even have social media. And he asks what she went to school for. She explains chemical engineering. She used to be allergic to a lot of stuff growing up. She did a lot of work on all natural cleaning solutions to help with the allergens. And he's a little confused about the chemical engineer thing because now she works at a sex shop. And she asks Seth about how he got into the club thing, and he explains that he was also really into school. And believe it or not, he graduated high school when he was 13 and then went to MIT. And by the time he was 20, he had his master's in computers. Twyla finishes signing the contract, and then he leads her towards the back of the club into a playroom and pulls over a rolling table that has a lot of toys on it. He says that before they begin, he's going to ask her some personal questions so he can assess what she already knows and figure out where they need to start. But that because they're doing private lessons and whatnot, he's going to let her ask questions back if she wants, which is not something he normally does with his students. He explains that when they're at the club, she must refer to him as Seven. He explains that keeping everyone's identity secret is important, and in the club, he is known as Seven. Roxy knows his name because he does business with her, and she's the only one outside of his partners that knows he is Seth Owens and Seth Owens is Seven. So she needs to take that seriously. And she agrees and asks how that nickname became his name. And he says that if she can make it through the lesson and learn all that he's planned for the day, he will show her where his name came from because he tries to explain something about a TV show and whatnot. And she doesn't get any of the pop culture references that he tries to constantly insert. And they agree and move on. And I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but the seventh thing is stupid. Just saying. He says that the first personal question that he's asking is if she's used any sex toys before, either with someone else or alone. And Twyla says no. And he says that throughout this whole thing, just make sure that she's honest, and she agrees, and says that the only thing she's ever used is the shower head, and she's not really comfortable even really touching herself with her hands. And he hands her a small waterproof vibrator and shows that she can touch it to her nose to feel how strong the vibrations are because that's something she can do in the store with customers without them feeling weird. That way they're able to have more of an idea how it feels on more sensitive parts. And then he shows her a bullet that has a remote control and lets her click through all the different settings, and he explains the benefit of using it also with a partner. Then he shows her a vibrator that has a clit stimulator, and she's wowed by it. And he asks if she'd like to take it home and test it out, and she's no, she doesn't need to try it. But he says, no, it's not a big deal. It's brand new right out of the package and no one's used it. Why imagine when you can just try to experience yourself? And Twyla's like, no, that she's never. And he's like, no, it's okay. And he's trying to explain how to use it and how she wouldn't fully appreciate how awesome it is unless she tries it. And she's trying to say it'll hurt. And he's like, no, just be gentle. Don't just shove things in. And then she just squeaks out that she's a virgin. Seth tried his best to carry on the lesson as if that wasn't a big deal and talked about three more different types of dildos. And then she leaves and he immediately goes to see Doc and is now panicking. So Doc is actually a doctor. He's a shrink. And he shrinks them all. And Seth only got going with this whole
I'm
thing
sorry.
because
When you say he shrinks them all I think of is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
yeah. Seth says that he was only going along with this whole thing because Roxy asked him to, and he doesn't know. He just got this weird feeling, this extra attraction for this girl, and he just felt this need to do this. And now he's way overthinking everything. He doesn't know if he can do this anymore. He explains the whole thing to Doc. Doc is just confused. Why would a chemical engineer need a job at a sex shop? When Seth explains about how smart she is and how they can connect on that level, because at first he was worried about them not being able to connect because she doesn't watch TV or movies, and that's weird. And Doc says that Seth is probably freaked out because all he had was his college experiences, which were not great as a whole because he was way too young and it was not, great at dynamic. And then he had the club, and he's never had normal vanilla sex with anyone or sex with anyone he was actually interested in for like more than just physicality. He's basically virgin like himself with that aspect. I disagree.
No.
I disagree.
I also heavily disagree.
I disagree.
The fuck?
Disagree. Don't mean to question a doctor, but I disagree.
Don't mean to yuck your yum, but
Yeah.
girl.
Yeah. Yeah. Twyla goes to work the next day. She actually feels a bit more confident about stuff and she's able to sell stuff, which is helping with her commission. And she just feels more confident overall. She's happy to see that she has an email from Seth because she was worried about after everything the day before that he was going to drop her as a student. But his email is congratulating her for completing the first lesson and, as promised, wants to send her the reason that his dom name is Seven and attaches a link to a Friends episode, like clip. He watches the scene that's clipped, and it's Monica. And she's talking about the seven erogenous zones and the seven chanting, if you've all seen that clip, or just the TV show in general. Twyla emails back and thanks him for the video and says that it's a good fit, and she laughed a lot. He responds asking if she has the day off the next day and that he's available for her next lesson if she'd like, and that he heard how well she did at the shop that day. She responds that she doesn't have the day off, but she doesn't have to go until late, so she can come the same time. And he says perfect and sends his phone number in case that's easier to text, and or if she has a question about anything or if she's bored. Twyla adds him to her contacts and sends him a message so he can have her number. She says she is bored, and it's weird. She's never been bored before. She doesn't know what to do with herself. He makes another reference, and then she just sighs when she doesn't get it again. And he says it would be great to show her all his favorite movies and see her reactions. And she says that would help with the boredom. And he says Sunday. They can have a movie marathon. She says, sounds good. Twyla tells Astrid about her date on Sunday and about her day at the shop. And Astrid's happy for her. And Twyla says that she'll find someone too, and someone who never will raise a hand on her or treat her poorly. And Astrid snorts and makes a joke that that's a pity, which Twyla's confused about. But Astrid explains that she got really into BDSM romances for a while and asked Brandon if they could try it because their sex had gotten a little boring. Maybe a toy, some light spanking. But he got super offended and thinking that he wasn't good in bed anymore. And so when he had started hitting her, he said that Astrid asked for it. And if Astrid tried to say anything to anyone, he would just show them the books that she read and how she begged him to do it.
Just gonna put this out there? No,
Yeah.
it's not how that works.
Yeah. The girls just spend the evening together as Astrid works on her computer and they just chill out.
Love that.
Yeah. Lesson 2 went better than the first, and it was all about items that a male could use. Twyla and Seth text constantly for the remainder of the week, getting to know each other more, and as soon as Sunday rolls around, Twyla loads herself up with all kinds of snacks and heads to meet Seth for the movie marathon. She gets this overwhelming feeling like someone is watching her, but she can't see anyone, so she rushes inside the club as fast as she can. She's getting a little freaked out, so she accidentally, literally smacks into Seth, who can see that she's frazzled. Twyla confesses that she thought she was being followed, but she was probably just feeling weird and it was probably nothing. And Seth assures her that it's a pretty safe town and asks if she knows of anyone who would be following her, any stalker ex-boyfriends he has to worry about. And that question hits a little too close to home, and she's forced to smile until he asks what would make her feel better. If he just locked the door, and she says yes. And they get a movie queued up. They're going to start with Guardians of the Galaxy because her name is Twyla Quill and Seth can't resist. They watch the movie, but Twyla has trouble concentrating, and Seth asks if she's still shaken up from earlier, and Twyla tells him she's fine, but he says that on the first day they promised they'd be honest, and Twyla comes out just that her sister told her that when a guy invites a girl over to watch a movie, they don't usually want to watch a movie together. And it's her first time on a date, and she doesn't really know what to do with her hands or anything else for that matter, and she's just internally freaking out a bit. Seth is quiet for like a whole minute, and then he finally gets out asking if she came there thinking they were going to sleep together, and Twyla admits that she came thinking that if Astrid was right, she wouldn't necessarily object. Seth says that that's not why he was inviting her over. If it was, he would have just said so. He uses grown-up words, which good, but like that's a little patronizing, honestly.
You think?
That it was kind of a big deal to him to have a woman over just to spend time with, and he thought maybe that he might get lucky and they'd snuggle a little, and if he was even luckier, she might let him kiss him, but that was all. Does she want him to be her first? And she's basically like, yes. Okay. Fast, but okay. He says, well, awesome. But for today, she can relax. They'll watch their movies, eat their snacks, spend time together, and on another day, he will take her to bed, and she will know ahead of time. Twyla kisses him. Seth does not usually kiss people at all. He usually keeps quite his distance in the club, and this is by far the best kiss he's ever had. And they make out like teenagers for a while, and then they get back to their movie marathon with a little bit of making out in between, and the night ends, and he walks her home, and Twyla introduces him to Astrid. Later that night, they even talk on the phone, and Seth tells her that he's going to take her to some beach house the following week, and he'll make it work with Roxanne, not to worry, and Twyla is riding a little bit of a high until the next morning, when she goes to get in her car and finds an envelope under her windshield wiper. It's addressed to Roberta Card, which is the name that Astrid has been using online, that she had all her clients transferred to a good friend of hers which is really Astrid. She's just now using the name Roberta Card. And Twyla wars internally what to do. She doesn't want to tell Astrid and freak her out, but she also doesn't want to drop a bomb on Seth right now. What if she's overreacting? She doesn't want to go to the police. That would draw too much attention, especially if she's wrong. But then she remembers that next door to Club Alias, she saw a door to a security office. Maybe they could be of some help, or at least some advice on what to do. So she pulls up in front of Imperium security a few minutes later and is confused when Seth greets her walking in the door. She asks what he's doing there, and he says he could ask her the same thing, but that this is his day job. What is it that she needs from an office with security guards? And Twyla knows that now she's stuck. She promised to be honest, so she shows him the envelope and explains that it was on her car that morning. She ends up having to explain the whole thing, why they're there, how her older sister was in an abusive relationship, how he had always been very controlling, and it didn't take long before the emotional abuse turned to physical. And if he's wondering why it's weird that they're randomly there, they snuck out in the middle of the night, drove across the country just to be as far away from as possible. This is where they landed. No one should know the name Roberta Card, and definitely not where they live. Seth opens the envelope, takes out the paper inside after putting on a pair of rubber gloves just to be safe. It's a letter that has Astrid's full name and address from California, and it's from the beauty consultant website explaining that her name was officially updated in their system as Roberta Card, but it's an old letter from like when she first did it, saying that it's going to be 3 to 5 business days before her change of address takes effect, which has already happened. And this was in an unmarked envelope without an address, so clearly the letter was sent to her old house and now was left here purposefully to be like, I know where you are. They start digging around on Google, find that it's fairly easy to find the area where they are by just looking up Roberta Card. Twyla faints. When she wakes up, Seth and Doc are there. Seth is trying to tell her to breathe, but Twyla starts to panic again. Astrid's home alone. He knows where she lives. Seth tells her that they called Astrid and that that's why Doc is there. He was about to go pick her up when Twyla started to wake up. Twyla looks over at the other man, and he confirms, in fact, that he is Doc, and she asks what he's waiting for. Go get her sister, please, quickly. She just has this overwhelming feeling that she needs to get Astrid out of there fast. Doc leaves, and Seth tells her that everything's going to be all right, that they've got it. She asks him to distract her until Astrid gets there. Tell her about Imperium security. And then he stiffens. And she's like, or not. And he's like, no. It's just that he made a promise to her that he would be honest. And in light of the fact that she was clearly not ready for him to know about everything and why they moved there and our past and everything, maybe he would get a pass at the moment for the details of the security company. And Twyla's curiosity is piqued, but she says pass granted. He says he'll tell her all about it eventually, but that the security team came first, and it's run by him and the same partners that run the club, that the security office is a job and the club is a passion. Well, at least he thought it was before he met her, because it doesn't compare to what he feels when he touches her, that is passion. And dude, it's been a week. I'm just saying. I mean, good for you and all, but this is really fast.
I mean, okay. Yeah.
Really, really fast.
Well, you know.
But then Astrid is there and she's hugging Twyla and asking what happened. And all she knows is that Twyla fainted. And Astrid asks Seth who he is, which is weird because she literally met him the night before. So that doesn't make any sense. Like, why go out of your way to say that they got introduced if you're going to then introduce them again? Whatever. That was an issue. So they meet each other again, pretending it's the first time, continuity errors and all that. And then Astrid asks Twyla why she's at the security office, and she takes a breath, and Twyla informs her that he found them. Astrid starts panicking and sobbing, thinking what shit this is for Twyla. She's basically blown up Twyla's whole life, and now he found them, and Twyla might be in danger. She'd even break down the whole time after she left Brandon, but here she is completely sobbing. And then Doc sits on the couch and pulls Astrid into his lap to cradle her and calm her down, telling her she's stronger than she believes she is. Why are you touching her? Aren't you supposed to be a dom? Why are you touching her?
Yeah, well, you know.
No, I don't know. I want to know why he's touching her without permission. He just scoops her up. Don't fucking touch people. You're a doctor and a dom. Just-
Yeah.
He assures her that Brandon will not touch her, that she's safe. Twyla and Seth just look shocked. Yeah, we all are. Until Seth, comes to himself and says that they need a plan, that the ladies need to lie low while they make sure that Brandon does not bother them again. Why doesn't Astrid come with Twyla and him on their trip that they were going to take, get them all out of town, relax a bit? Astrid's like, no way. That trip was for the two of them. She's not going to get in the way of that. She's not going to be a third wheel. Doc says that Astrid can stay with him because she shouldn't be alone in her apartment. He has a guest room, very good security system, and a dog to keep her company. After learning about the dog, Astrid says deal. She'll stay with the giant, and the two of them can go on their trip. Seth, because by the way, Doc is like a massive, like Hagrid size human being, apparently. Seth says that they need to move their trip up and they can go get packed. And while they do that, Seth is going to start researching Brandon. So then the ladies head to the apartment, get packed up with Doc. And then once they're packed up, Doc and Astrid head off to his place, and Seth and Twyla head for the beach house that Doc owns that he's letting Seth use. They bond on the ride over their shared music interests, and Seth tells Twyla that her music taste officially makes her his dream girl. They get to the beach house, and it's quite extravagant. They almost immediately, after getting their stuff inside, get changed into bathing suits and head for the water, only coming in when they have to eat dinner. And then after, they sit down and watch a movie, starting a Marvel marathon. Twyla compliments Seth on his shirtlessness, and he makes a crack about her being the only one to see him like that, because he's always in pants, a shirt, and a mask at the club. And then
How did Ariel feel about that?
it's all a little too much, just saying. It's just a little
Yeah.
too much. And then they get close, and the tension gets high until Seth starts taking her top off, touching and kissing down her body. Once he gets her shorts off and realizing that she wore green underwear, he's all excited because she says it's his favorite color and green means go.
I yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
He says that it does, and then he scoops her up, carries her to the kitchen, lays her across the counter so he can feast on her. He makes some comment in his head about how it's been over 5 years since he went down on a woman because he hasn't had the desire to do so. And I feel like, I'm just saying, I feel like that's a red flag.
Yeah. It it is. It really is.
I feel like any man who outright says, I just don't have the desire to go down on a woman, ever, if they ever have that feeling, it's just, no, I don't have any,
Because those
you're
men
no good
also
for me.
expect you to go down on them, but they're not going to reciprocate,
Oh, I'm sure he
which,
had the women at the club do that to him.
yeah, which is a problem.
Right. So he had no desire to please a woman. He just had no instinctual, no wanting to please a woman. Red flag.
Yeah.
Goodbye. You can go die in a hole. Don't want, you should have no happy ever after.
Sorry.
This book could have only ended in his death to have a happy ever after
Okay.
after that comment
Okay.
for me. Just saying. So when he's done, he picks her up again, brings her to the gym. There's a little home gym, and it has a wall of mirrors, and sets her down in front of the mirrors, takes his own clothes off, and then she tells him that she's on the pill and it's her first time, so it would be way more special to do it without a condom. And you're a fucking idiot. Just saying. Fucking
Yeah.
idiot. But he's all for this, so also fucking idiot.
Well, they
And then
deserve
he
each other.
fucks her. And he tells Twyla that she's his now, and there's no way he can let her go now. And she says, same. And again, all too soon. Did we know that this was going to be an insta love? Because I don't think I did.
No.
No, I don't think that was in the blurb.
No.
They spend some time in the sauna after and then get washed up and go to bed. In the morning, Twyla finds Seth in the office working a little, and he says that they're trying to figure out where Brandon is so that they can serve him a restraining order. And that since her sister never filed police reports, there's nothing on his record, and they have to be a little crafty to show the burden of proof to get the restraining order. Twyla says that she took pictures of Astrid after they left, and he says that'll help. Plus, they have the letter, and Doc is asking Astrid if she has any emails or text messages saved. Twyla wants to know what happens if the restraining order doesn't get approved, and he says that they'll worry about that if it happens. And she pushes him until he quotes another movie talking about finding him and killing him, and she's like, "Excuse me? What?" And he's like, "Well, he only handles the technical side of the business." And she realizes he's serious and asks about his partners, and Seth says that maybe it's time that they talk. He explains that Doc had approached him while he was working on his master's at MIT, that Doc had been a therapist for several years and the work was getting to him because he could only help his clients so much, that most of them being victims. And in the beginning, Seth used his computer skills to make sure that the bad guys paid in their own way. But then they had one woman who her and her college roommate had been assaulted by their boss. And the boss was the police chief's brother. So the police didn't do much. And she never really pursued it after that, except going to therapy, which is how Doc got involved. But the roommate became really depressed and ended up ODing. And the woman's family was afraid that she would do the same, so they had her committed. And that's when Doc and Seth hired Glover and eventually Corbin. They make sure to only take out the people who deserve it, the ones who escape justice unfairly. And then it dawns on her what he's saying. She says he's a vigilante, and he says, more like a mercenary. They get paid for it. And he says he sets up behind the scenes stuff, and Corbin and Glover do the dirty work, and he's telling her because he trusts her, because he's known her for a week.
Mhm.
And he hopes that she'll take him seriously when he says he's not letting it go, which honestly, I don't think they built up enough of any of this. And it's just kind of creepy,
Yeah.
him like saying this to her. And Twyla says she feels the same and tells Seth that she loves him, and he says he loves her too. So great for me. And they fuck again. Mhm. 3 days later, with all the photos and the messages that Astrid had kept, and now the letter on the windshield and all the documentation, they were granted the restraining order. So Twyla's ready to head back to work. Seth thinks that they should stay at the beach house longer, but Twyla wants to get back to normal. Astrid's going to stay a couple extra days at Doc's since Brandon doesn't know where that is, just in case. But Twyla had just started her job. She doesn't want to let Roxanne down. And on their way back, Twyla asks Seth how he got into BDSM. He says that he gets off on control and he's sort of a sadist. He gets pleasure from inflicting pain on people, and she's confused because he's so gentle and caring. She hasn't seen that side of him at all. And he says that she's different, and his Dom side is very different than what she's seen the past few days. And she asks if he plans to use that side on her, and he says that he'll show her all sides of him if she'd like. And Seth says that Doc thinks that the reason why he got into BDSM was because he was always so much younger than the people he went to school with. And when he was in college, he went through puberty, and that they kind of made a pet out of him. He was so young and he just wanted to be a part of everything, and he was toyed with. Sure, he was smart, but he only started when he was 13, and he lost his virginity around 16, and the girl was way older, obviously, and she asked him to do all these things right off the bat, like spank her and choke her, and she got off on the roughness, and everything just blossomed from there. But now they have the club, and he even went to dominant training before they opened, and it got established, and they took everything very seriously. It's just part of his life now. He really enjoyed the instructor side of things, so that's what he trained for, and now he's the instructor at the club. And that all makes Twyla realize that he's the one who trains the submissives at the club. And he says that she's known that since they met. And she explains that she just understands what it means now and asks if he plans on continuing that since they're together. And he pulls the car over, kisses her. Things quickly start to escalate, and then he fingers her. He tells her that hers is the only body that he wants to feel or taste for the rest of his life. Again, escalating quite quickly. That he will still give lessons. He'll still be the head trainer, but there's plenty of highly trained and qualified members who will gladly step up and take on the hands-on portion. They end up getting to Twyla's apartment. She grabs her stuff for work, changes, and Seth tells her that he wants her to stay with him until they can make sure that the Brandon situation is all set. And then it says something about how they've been together day and night for over a week now, but the last bit had said it had been 3 days later. So I'm really just really frustrated about all the ambiguous timing in this book. So I'm just gonna here we are. And whatever. She goes to work and Seth goes and gets some of his own work caught up with. And while at work, Twyla gets a visit from Brandon, which doesn't last long before she's being knocked out. And then randomly, we get Astrid's point of view, which I don't know. To me, weird. I don't really like it. Wasn't really established before now. So it's kind of weird. She had new shipments of products delivered to her apartment, and Doc is busy with appointments all day and doesn't want to wait for him to take her. So she's slipping out to go get them. Just a quick errand. Doc finds her fairly quickly at the apartment. He's not happy she left. He has cameras on his property, and the motion sensors gave her away. And he quickly found her, and they bicker back and forth and argue because she's a grown woman until he kisses her. And they're interrupted by his cell phone ringing, and it's Seth on the other line. Twyla was taken. And again, I really don't think that Astrid's point of view was necessary here. Just saying.
I was so fucking confused.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening?
I thought the only reason they would do this is if it was like some big, like, Astrid was being taken or something. I don't know, but
Are they
nothing.
leading it up to?
Doc's book probably eventually, but Doc's
Yeah.
book's not the next one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, so when Twyla didn't answer any of Seth's messages or calls, after a while he started to panic and he couldn't find her. So he pulled up Brandon's location. He was not at the hotel, and his guys tagged his vehicle, and it was not on its way back to California. In fact, it had stopped at Twyla's work for 6 full minutes and now was heading in the opposite direction. Seth and his partners start to strategize and plan. When Twyla wakes up, she's naked and shackled. Brandon's there and he's using a flogger on her, saying, "What's the matter?" When she's screaming. He thought she was into all this kinky stuff. That's why she works at a sex shop. Oh, that's why he brought her there. Her boyfriend must be taking it easy on her if she's already crying. She's good practice for when he gets Astrid back. He'll know how to use the stuff properly. She took Astrid from him, and now he will take her freedom from her. He could have gotten to Astrid at any time, but Twyla was the one who came in the middle of the night and took her, and now she's going to be the one punished for it. He was so one-dimensional, just saying. All of them were.
No.
I just hate when we've had this conversation a few times, like when characters aren't like
Yeah.
built up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth and his dudes are racing towards the location that Brandon and Twyla have been stopped at, but obviously they're behind. They've been at what's called the Red Rocket for 30 minutes now.
Okay, first
Some
of all,
sleazy place.
every time they fucking said Red Rocket, do you know where my brain went?
Dogs,
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah.
I was like, why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Why are we doing a lot of this was the better
Mm.
question. People at the door try to stop them from going in, saying it's only couples or women allowed. And when they try to say they have a friend there who's been brought against her will, they try to say no one came in there looking like they weren't there to have a good time. So they knock the people out and head forward. They finally find Twyla sobbing and bloody, and Seth charges for Brandon, who had a violet wand in his hand, and Seth's punching him, takes the wand and smashes it across his face. And then he starts to choke Brandon until he makes eye contact with Twyla, and she tells him that he has to stop, please, that he saved her, but he has to stop. But seeing all the damage to her body up close just makes him tighten his grip more. Corbin knocks him out of the way and takes over with Brandon and saying to take care of Twyla. And Seth gets her unshackled and pulls her into his arms and gets her the fuck out of there. Then we fast forward 6 weeks later, and Twyla is at her fourth therapy session with Doc as a prospective member of the club, which, what the ever loving fuck?
God, I don't know.
I just, we talk about the right way and the wrong way to showcase BDSM, and I'm just
I think in her mind, maybe that was her way to, I don't know, fucking
to
know.
show time and healing had gone on,
Yeah,
but
I just didn't like how he handles her.
I don't know, like, yeah,
afterwards.
most of that, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seth is there in therapy with her, which again, not cool. I feel like also red flag, red flag, red flag.
Yeah.
And he's threatening to spank her after all this ordeal
That.
if she doesn't recognize a movie quote that he references.
Yeah.
And I'm honestly really regretting not forcing us to reread one of my staple BDSMs, even though it wasn't on Kindle Unlimited. Just in this whole scene. So they talk about how they want to have a Dom sub relationship in the club only so that there's clear lines. And I feel like the lack of processing on page is just a gross misuse of the whole BDSM scene.
Yeah.
And obviously, the misuse of the items and that was her first introduction of things. It was just widely swept under the rug, leaving a very poor taste in my mouth when it comes to romanticizing a lifestyle that should have been more forthcoming on page.
Yeah.
And Doc assures her that nothing that happened with Brandon will happen at the club, but I don't think verbally saying that is enough, personally.
No.
Like, she's not going to want anything to do with any of that stuff. I don't know. But they agreed to let her try to use the tools anyways, so she can try them out. But with Seth, and I feel like it wasn't eased,
So
it wasn't done
my
right.
my other issue too was when she had a visible reaction.
Right. I wanted better. I
Yeah.
wanted better.
Yeah.
It just didn't hit right for me. The whole
Gotcha.
scene. It was just, I don't know, the way that they were going about it.
Yeah, it wasn't good. Like I don't it's
I
not
felt like could have been handled better for what we want in a healthy BDSM.
well that's the thing is it wasn't very healthy
No,
at all.
no. So the next day they go to the club, and Seth tells her that once he puts his mask on, he will no longer be Seth. And then it's this whole seven persona, which I honestly hate. And I don't want to be negative this whole fucking time, but good fucking Lord, I'm not here for this.
Yeah.
It feels like you're putting on this major act and it's not authentic. And maybe I'm just grumpy about this whole thing, but that is not what, like, it should be.
No, I mean, I don't think that you're like being grumpy about it in like a bad way.
It's
Like,
just not hitting me right.
no.
It's not making me feel yummy.
Yeah.
It's not making me
Did,
feel
did you
yummy.
did you say yummy?
Yummy, yummy. He basically tells her that no matter how much he hurts her or he fucks her like he hates her, he still loves her. If you have to say
Well,
that, that's a problem.
mm-hmm.
So then they get into a room and instantly Seth basically takes out a vlogger. Like, hey, let's just slide right in, and tells her that the quality can make a big difference, that cheaper versions should not be used on such delicate skin, as if that was the problem with Brandon.
Yeah.
Then apparently that's what it was because she's loving it. No questions. I have lots of questions actually, so just saying. Yeah, so this is not what I wanted for an example, just saying I'm sad. So then he
Yeah.
pulls out the violet wand. She has no problem with that. I mean, she's not a big fan of it, but it doesn't give her flashbacks or anything. And then he takes out some shackles. Fun. She does care about that. Doesn't like the shackles with him being masked. So he takes off his mask and assures her that Brandon is in jail. So then she's fine after that.
That's
Uh-huh.
the eye
Yep.
twitch is real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. So then he uses the vibrator on her from the beginning that he wanted her to try when they first met, that she didn't end up taking home. And then he fucks her. And then we have an epilogue of 7 years later. They have a daughter named Luna, and they're watching Monster High because both Twyla and Luna are characters in that show. And it's all exciting. And then Twyla turns to Seth and basically realizes that he's been calling her doll all these years after literal dolls. He was a grown man knowing enough about children's cartoons to call her doll after a character. And that's the end of the book.
Okay, I didn't like how much he called her doll, let's be honest.
I don't like a lot of things,
Oh yeah,
let's
there's
be
that.
honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our book.
Mm, yeah.
So, did you have a favorite character by chance?
No, not really. Did you?
On one hand, I was going to say Roxy, because she was cool and gave her a job and all that jazz, but then she also like set her up with Seth and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but out of everybody, I guess I'm going to go with that.
That sounds great. I'm going with nothing.
I didn't think that was an option, so
Well, it is now, isn't it?
who's your least favorite character? Oh no, I have a character. The dog that tried to stop Astrid from leaving the house.
Okay,
Like
there
he
we
was
go.
smarter than her.
The dog, ladies and
And then
gentlemen.
Doc basically said that he was more trained than her. So,
Well, oh, he's not wrong.
nope. So, the dog, Doc's dog. That's my favorite character.
Okay. Okay. So, let's see. Least favorite
Least favorite
character.
character.
Well, where to
Who to
begin?
choose?
I'm gonna go with Seth. For a self-proclaimed Dom in the space, he sure as shit did not do the things he should have done
No,
at all.
no.
Aftercare was abysmal. The way that he reacted to her freaking the fuck out in the thing was also abysmal. That is not how someone in that position should be treating you at all.
Nope.
Like, that is a poor Dom sub dynamic. It's
Yeah.
a very bad one.
Yeah. I almost
So,
wish we had 3 specials in February
so
so we could have a redo.
well, we
If
don't.
you need different BDSM recommendations, please message us because
We
we will
do
give
have
you ones that
plenty.
we have already read and because it won't be this. But I also agree with you on Seth.
Yeah, I just
I would survive
if
because I would stay the fuck away from him.
yeah, same. I would survive as well. If any of my previous partners had ever treated me this way, you can sure as shit bet your ass they would have no balls. And I know because didn't he also say like he was like huge on he can put like any woman into subspace? Isn't that what he said at one point? Just so you're well aware, not every person can go into subspace.
This told me that not proper research was done
Yeah,
to
because
write this
that's
book.
there are plenty of people
And if
who
you don't know about a subject, research it. Not a big deal.
exactly. But that was like weirdly a big gripe of mine was the whole subspace situation. I was like, you can't. Not every person can go into that, especially like some people who are like fall more into a submissive territory like consistently. They just don't go into that headspace because they're always kind of in. It's a whole thing, but
Well, and
like,
it just depends. It's a whole different.
yeah,
There's a whole dynamic, and
yeah. It takes a lot of building
the
trust and
blind
not a
leading the blind
week.
here.
It takes longer than a week to establish that kind of specific relationship and trust and all this other stuff. And it's
And the
just
fact that he allowed for it was a week
yeah, is
showed me he was not.
very frustrating.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not. It's not great. So, any hoozles, to me even further piss Ariel off, Amazon gives us a 4.6. Goodreads a 4.3. Storygraph a 4.11.
I rated it 2 stars. Maybe we are the problem? Though I think people tend to get confused when it comes to BDSM and not, and that's why healthy BDSM books are so important
Mm-hmm.
because we
There's a lot
truly
out there
need
that
to.
please don't ever base your experience on 50 Shades of Grey.
Mm.
Peppers.
So yeah, I was not happy. Um,
But us being happy doesn't
I
constitute
kind
the scale.
a little bit.
We have, okay, no, because you've also gone back and forth with that. Because you have also said, well, it kind of depends. It's
Yes
the
and no.
stuff that's in the book.
Like, right.
But we also
So
now have a secondary scale.
technically,
So
it's a jalapeno, but it's not a great jalapeno.
it's a sad jalapeno, one that you get
It's a
like
sad
right before
jalapeno.
it expires, like the day
Yes.
before it expires. Cool.
It's a
One-handed read?
jalapeno that
Nah.
needed to be grown more.
Yeah.
And no, yeah. Oh, hold. Please hold. No, 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 no.
Yeah. Hmm. Well then. We tried,
We try so hard and fail again.
but you know what? There is a chance that the next one will be okay.
Yeah, next time we're reading about a kink camp, like a BDSM camp, like a summer camp for adults. It's kind of exciting.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
And if I'm disappointed by this one, I'm going to need a redo of the whole month. I'm going to be real big, fat, sad. I'm just letting you know. So I know I'm going to be reading, so make sure you keep reading.
And keep it smutty.
Oh, my Lanta just goose fucking fabra.
Let's try that again.
Take 2. Oh no, we can't. We're women. We can't let people see our shoulders.
The scandal.
Scandalous.
Why are we fucking This is for the female gaze, not the male gaze. But it could also be for the male gaze.
Gays. But oh my jaw. Hi. Take 7. Just kidding.
Take 20.
And we start with Twyla, and she's picking up her sister Astrid from a really take 21. And now she's a and now take 27. And take 34. That keeping everyone's identity is, oh my shit. Take 35. Figure out where Brandon is so that they can serve him restraint. Take 70 so that they can serve him restraining. Take 71. I don't like that they call him Glover here because they call him, what is it, Brian everywhere else in the book.
Well, apparently who cares?
Was the theme of this book for continuity. You know how I feel about that.